Om Shanti. What happens after death? So, you can hear from Hindus that during someone's death, they used to say that they are seeing uh, Yama, the god of death, coming on an ox with a whip on his hand to take him away from this body, from this world. Likewise, for many Christians, they had these visions of uh, beautiful angels, especially two angels, holding their hands and take them away to heaven. And some Christians, they had visions during near-death experience that they are taken to the place like hell where people are put into fire like that. But what is the truth? So do these things they claim to have seen or false or for real? The reasons they have this different kind of visions based on the religion they belong to is purely because of the faith they possessed while they lived. But what really happens after death is you will be taken out of this body just like that within a fraction of a second and put into another body in your mother's womb. So that is what actually happens. No angels come to take you, or no god of death comes to take you. It just happens automatically. And the mother's womb that you enter after death is purely based on your karmic account and the lost thought you possessed while leaving this body. So that determines the womb that you enter. If that is the case, what is the reason for people who experience near death to have such visions? So does God want to tell us anything by giving such visions? Yes, God does want to inform us about something through giving such visions. We consider the soul leaving one's body to be the end of that life. But it's not the end in itself, because it is going to be the beginning of another life. So what we refer as death is just the death of the body and not of the soul. But there comes a time where the soul has to undergo something similar to death. The reason I call it death is because just when we look at the death of a body, we call it death because the body doesn't show any sign of life. It cannot operate. So all signs of the life has disappeared from that body, which is why we call it as death. Similarly, soul reaches a state where it no longer acts, where it shows no sign of being active. It becomes more like dead, completely inactive. But the difference between the death of a body and the death of the soul is, once the body is dead, it is dead forever. But the death of the soul is not the death forever, which means it becomes active after some time. So the death of the soul is only for a temporary period. But there is a chance to escape that temporary death and be active all the time. It is this phenomenon of the soul escaping even the temporary death is called the deathless life in all religions. And another difference between the death of a body and the death of a soul is different souls leave different bodies at a different time, which means I die at a different time and you die at a very different time. So, and another person, he dies at another time. But regarding the death of the soul, every soul enters the death phase at the same time. The difference lies in the time when it becomes reactive again. Some souls, they don't even enter the death phase. They are active all the time, which is we call as the deathless soul. We can easily understand by following this picture. It is a 5,000 year time cycle called kalpa. Our souls, they shine like a tiny star in between the eyebrows, which is why Hindus have this habit of wearing religious symbols in between the eyebrows. But the souls, before entering one's body or before taking birth in earth, they reside here in the golden red colored light world called the soul world or Parandam or Parlok. It is here God also resides all the time. He is also a soul just like us. But the only difference is we enter this birth and death cycle that lasts for 5,000 years, while God stays away from this birth and death cycle. He neither takes birth nor dies. But towards the end of this kalpa, this 5,000 years is called a kalpa, towards the end of the kalpa, God comes. If He doesn't come at all, then there is no point in worshipping God at all. Because we don't get any help from God if He doesn't come in the end, because that is the time we need God the most, because we suffer the most, both psychologically and physically. So God, unlike other souls, doesn't take birth, but He enters an old man's body directly and gives this knowledge using the old man's mouth. That is why He comes. And He names the old man as Brahma. And the teachings of God delivered through Brahma's mouth is called Murli, which is available absolutely free of cost in all Raj Yoga meditation centers. And I also give the links of the websites and YouTubes that give that Murli in the description below this video. Please make use of it, because that is the only direct teaching of God. It is available only towards the end of Kali Yuga or this old world. The essence of that teaching is This is a 5,000-year time cycle, half of which is heaven and the last half is hell. The same world which was heaven in the beginning becomes hell in the end. Why? Because we were soul conscious while in heaven, we were not addicted to the bodily pleasures, thereby not addicted to the five vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. So, these vices are called sins. Since we do not commit any sins, there is no need for us to get punishment in the form of disease or natural calamities. So all we see in heaven is nothing but peace and blissfulness throughout. We won't have any disease, we'll be ever healthy, ever wealthy. We were healthy to the extent that the palaces we lived in were made up of golden bricks. We were that rich. And there was absolutely no selfishness among people or among animals. They just love each other to the extent that lions and cows drink water from the same pond at the same time, which means they don't have this idea of hurting each other. So that is why it was called heaven for the first 2,500 years. Because they were soul conscious, they considered themselves to be the soul that operates this body, and they don't consider themselves to be this body. They consider themselves totally different from this body, which is why they don't fall for the external beauty, so they don't fall for lust. That is the reason they don't suffer. And in addition, they will have this eternal bliss because this soul, the very nature of soul itself is blissfulness. Since we were conscious of soul, we could experience the real nature of the soul, which is eternal blissfulness. But after the completion of the first 2,500 years, we lose soul consciousness and become body conscious, thereby become slaves for the physical pleasures, and became addicted to the five vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego, because of which we started committing sin after sins. Thereby we had to experience punishment in the form of disease and the betrayal among relationships and natural calamities. And in hell, the sufferings increase day by day because the amount of sins we commit increase day by day. Because our ability to differentiate between good and bad decrease rapidly after becoming body conscious. So God comes to this world 100 years before the destruction of the old world. And he says, he teaches things that are necessary to get rid of body consciousness and to regain soul consciousness. The first thing that we need to do is to consider ourselves to be the soul that operates this body. We shine like a tiny star in between the eyebrows. We need to bring awareness to that by constantly repeating it in your mind, that I am not this perishable body but an imperishable soul. It is me, the soul, that sees through the eyes and the soul that speaks through the mouth, and it is the soul that performs everything through this body. By repeating it to yourself, you will slowly become soul conscious. But we were soul conscious for the past 2500 years, so it is not going to end that easily. And we don't have the ability to get rid of body consciousness on our own, because our soul has lost its power to remember even the simplest thing, that we are the soul constantly. So we need to remember God also as a point of light that shines like a tiny star in the golden red colored sky. We need to remember Him lovingly as our Father. He is indeed the only Father of all souls. Also, we need to remember the Murli points, the knowledge of God, as much as possible, so that it makes us attain the soul conscious stage as fast as possible. So by remembering God constantly as a point of light, you will become as pure as God, which means you will get rid of those 5 vices. Your addiction to the bodily pleasures will decrease. So all you need to do is to remember God as much as possible, without getting distracted to the worldly distractions, because it is these worldly distractions that makes you addicted to these 5 vices in the first place. But by remembering God as much as possible and by becoming soul conscious, you will start experiencing constant blissfulness, and you will see yourself developing divine qualities like purity, peacefulness, and happiness. And you will see that your words, actions, and thoughts are becoming very divine in nature. But all of that doesn't come just in a second. It takes time, it takes effort, enormous effort. So God comes 100 years before the destruction of the world, but we all don't get this knowledge at the same time. So the amount of time that we are taking this knowledge is obviously going to differ between each person. And even after getting this knowledge, not everybody is going to put the same kind of effort. So that is going to determine the status that we are going to attain in heaven. It is the kingdom. So there will be king and queen and other people, very rich people. Nobody will be poor, because by comparison, if you take someone as poor or the poorest in heaven, he is richer than the richest person in this world. So think for yourself how rich heaven would be. So those who become 100% pure, just like God, they will claim the status of a king or queen. And the number one status is the status of Sri Narayan, who is the number one king of heaven. That could be you or me. It purely depends on the amount of effort that we put in becoming soul conscious as fast as possible. Regarding the death of one's body, it doesn't matter even if the god of death or the angels come to take us, because anyway the actions that you performed during your lifetime is going to determine the next birth. So what is the need for the death of God or the angels to take you away from this body? Because that's not going to make any difference, because already you have determined your next birth by your actions in this birth. But when you get this knowledge, it means you have died. Though you are within this body, you are still aware of everybody around you and everything around you, but still you need to consider yourself dead as soon as you have got this knowledge, because this is going to be your next birth. But this is not visible to the external world. Everything happens at a subtle level. So in this birth, God teaches you certain things that is required for you to enter heaven. So now you have to transform yourself. Now the whole world is immersed in these vices, especially lust. Now you got to get out of the lust, out of the body consciousness. So God gives you the direction that is needed to get out of body consciousness and to get out of the punishments that you need to face because of your past sins of this birth and your past births. God has come to make you escape from the sins, from the punishments. All you need to do is to blindly follow the teachings of God. Because if you follow your intuition or others' direction, obviously you are going to commit more sins and your soul is going to get more corrupt. So that is going to lead you into more problem-filled situations. There is only one God, and He is called Shiva by Hindus, Allah by Muslims, and Heavenly Godfather by Christians. Nobody who took birth from a mother's womb can be considered God. Hindus, in addition to God Shiva, they also worship other 33 million gods. They are actually not gods. They are the deities, the residents of heaven. They are none but us. We, in our initial births, were deities. After taking several births, after losing the soul power, we become body conscious and start committing sin after sins, thereby facing more and more sufferings now. So the only way out of the sufferings of this world is to become soul conscious as much as possible before the end of this life. This is our last birth in this kalpa, or in this old world, or in this hell. So it is God Shiva, the only God, who is also called the God of death, because he comes just before the death of the whole world. So God of death comes before the end of the world. Why? To transform us from ordinary humans to the deities of heaven. The transformation takes around 100 years. Those who put sincere effort without wasting any time in becoming fully soul conscious, they will take birth in the beginning of heaven. While the rest, actually everybody during the destruction of the world has to leave their body here and to reach the soul world, which is the home of the souls. But those who become fully soul conscious, they will be taking birth in the beginning of the world, which means they are going to enjoy the world right from the beginning till the end of the world, which means they are eternally alive. They are deathless throughout the kalpa. While the rest, who were careless and didn't become fully soul conscious, they would have to stay there till the world slowly gets depleted of its wealth and blissfulness, peacefulness, to the extent that matches with the power of the soul. So if your soul is just 80% pure, so it enters the world, it takes birth in the world only after this world becomes 80% pure. Only in the beginning the world would be 100% pure. So the wealth and everything in the beginning will be 100%, but everything decreases gradually. So to enjoy the fullness of heaven, we need to enter heaven in the beginning by becoming fully conscious, fully soul conscious in this birth itself. So just before the death of the soul, that is just before the soul entering the death phase, God comes and gives the teachings necessary to save the soul from the temporary death that the soul has to experience in the soul world, because in the soul world the souls will be more like dead, inactive, unconscious of anything. So this is the deathless life all religions speak about. And the two angels that Christians speak about their experience during near death actually represents God, Shiva and Brahma, in which God enters. So it is them that has come to take us away from this world of suffering forever. So in this last birth, after getting the knowledge of God, it is more like we are dead to the outside world. Only when you play dead to the outside world that you will be able to develop the qualities that you originally possessed in heaven in the beginning. So it is more like we are dead now. So now God gives us these teachings, and by listening only to the teachings of God, that we become filled with the divine qualities required to become a deity. So as I mentioned earlier, every soul has to enter the death phase at the same time, towards the end of the world. So all souls become inactive in the soul world, but the soul that manages to enter this world in the beginning of heaven, so it becomes active just like that. So it is those who listen to God sincerely and follow the directions of God sincerely, thereby become fully body conscious. They are able to attain the eternal life without entering the death phase at all. So please rush to the nearest Raj Yoga meditation centers to get this Murli absolutely free of cost. And also, as I mentioned earlier, refer to the links of the sites and YouTube channels that is publishing Murli in the description below this video, and make full use of it and make yourself eligible to enter heaven in the beginning and to claim the highest status of Sri Narayan. Om Shanti. Thanks for watching. Please share this video with your friends and relatives so that they can also become aware of this spiritual secret behind Christians and Hindus thinking that God of death or the angels that are going to come towards the end, so that they can make themselves eligible to enter heaven as well. And if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button and leave your valuable comments in the comment section. And if you have any doubts regarding this video or any other video in this channel, please mention that in the comments as well, so that we'll be able to help you out either in the reply in the comment section or with a different video if necessary. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the notification bell next to the subscribe button, so that every single video we publish will be notified in your mobile phone. Thanks for watching.